Howdy, and welcome to another Trash Take. Today we're going to be talking about a hot topic, Donald Trump, mainly Trump Tower. If y'all haven't seen, New York's kind of setting itself on fire in order for support for what green card holder, one of the green card holders who was instrumental in organizing the Hamas protests against Palestine or Hamas protests against Israel on, I think it was Columbia College campus, like 2 years ago when October 7th happened. There was a bunch of outbreaks that were happening on college campus where there was some radical extremists putting up flyers saying basically kill all Jews. Some really radical shit was happening. One of those people was instrumental in a protest that basically resulted in a dorm building being taken over, rust bases being built, windows being shattered, and I think some people maybe being assaulted. I don't really know. But the person who actually organized that was a green card holder. And turns out, if you're a green card holder, it's kind of illegal to be supporting terrorist groups. Like, straight up. It's part of one of the many rules, or one of the few rules that you actually have if you're a green card. If you're found to have ties or in support of a terrorist organization, which Hamas is a terrorist organization labeled by the United States, then you get your green card revoked. So right now, what's happening in New York is that guy who organized that protest on campus is basically in process of getting deported. So New York's flipping the fuck out. And because of that, you have people that have now stormed into Trump Tower to protest. And I'll be quite clear. Trump Tower is private property. Protesting on private property never ends well because trespass charges are almost always placed immediately. So I'm going to play some clips of those people and them getting arrested too, because that was 100% happening. Before I do that, I want to make the claim of where I'm getting my information from. Now, this is me just Googling to see if there are any reasons green cards can be revoked, and one of them is security-related reasons, where green card holders who engage in activity deemed threatening to the U.S. national security can lose their status. This includes involvement in terrorism, espionage, or other activities that undermine the safety of the United States. The guy that's being deported supported Hamas. According to the foreign terrorist organizations list in America from the U.S. Department of State, Hamas is actively on here as a terrorist organization since 1997. Now, whether or not he'll actually be deported will totally depend, because I think he still has to stand trial, or actually, I don't know if you have to stand trial. You're not really accused of a crime, right? You're just accused of violating the terms of your green card. So if you violate the terms of your green card, I guess you can get deported for that. I don't know. I'll be curious to see how this plays out. Personally, I believe the guy should be deported. I don't have any bleeding hearts for people that are coming to the country saying they want to completely destroy Western values and then expect nothing to happen to them. Like, there's so many different terrorists that have started out in a foreign country, getting a free trip to America to come here for college education, and then going back to their country to join terrorist organizations. And this just seems like we intercepted one midway through before he was able to go back. So this is what it looks like to me. Could be wrong. Could be misreading the room entirely. I don't really care about that too much. I'm here to focus on the protests because I think the protests are always fucking hilarious. Shitty ass watermark over it. This is from Libs of TikTok. It looks like New York police have actually pulled up and are starting to arrest the people in there. This happened about an hour ago or so. Yeah, so it's a bunch of people being arrested, a bunch of camera crews, a bunch of photographers. Everyone here is basically trying to be a martyr for this. I'd be curious if there's any green card holders in here too that are also being deported for the same reasons. But I guess they're not really supporting terrorism. They're in support of a guy who supported terrorism. Which, I mean, you could argue A plus B equals C, D plus E equals C, A plus B equals D plus E. You could say that. I mean, you might be able to make that argument. I just don't understand the process for someone being deported, but as far as I can tell from the green card rules, it's not allowed. Here's a different shot of a bunch of people getting arrested too.
We're being told they are now making arrests here. We were bringing this to you live.
Arming Israel
People have
shirts.
stormed into Trump Tower protesting the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia University former graduate student, who has riled up so much of the anti-Semitism that we've seen, not just on Columbia, but other campuses as well. There's a big dispute going on right now between the Trump administration and Democrats and these supporters of Khalil's who say he has been unfairly detained. But what we're hearing from the administration is Khalil has been at the nexus of this anti-Semitism and the violent protests we've seen on some of these college campuses. You can think about the one building they took over at Columbia months ago and detained. They actually held a janitor hostage. We see the arrest now here at Trump
Tower. They held
Tower.
someone hostage?
Can we hear what they're chanting? We don't have the audio. But yeah, you can see them getting loud, and you can see the police
are peacefully protesting. To be
honest, one of the things I think that we need that
is pretty funny. The cops coming in and grabbing one person at a time and arresting him. I mean, they kind of have to in order to get them out of there when you do a mass protest like this on private property. As long as they're not being violent and they can grab one at a time and they're not flipping out and trying to fight the cops, yeah, fucking don't aggravate the horde. There's a lot more of them probably than there are cops here right now, so fuck it. Yeah, so it does sound like they actually did hold someone hostage. I know they were shattering windows and like trying to like break in and then like trying to stop people from coming in and going to class, and with like intimidating the Jewish population on campus with some pretty crazy ass signs. But one of those things to where if anyone's actually violating any laws and they stop peacefully protesting, they should probably be prosecuted. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. If you start breaking the law, you are no longer peacefully protesting. That seems to be a reoccurring theme. As soon as you start breaking the law, you can't call it a peaceful protest. It's like with the Black Lives Matter and the CNN anchor standing here saying it's mostly peaceful protest and behind him is the fucking city on fire. That shit's comical. Don't believe what you see, believe what you hear, which is us telling you it's peaceful. Use your own eyes. If people are breaking shit, destroying windows, people are getting hurt, people are being held hostage, that doesn't sound very peaceful to me.
Note here is you can see, we mentioned before that there were police in the corners. Now we see more police show up overwhelmed.
Yeah, this seems like it's more theatric. They have like 40 different cameramen here taking individual pictures and videos. Oh, she's wearing a face mask too. Minus 20 points for the Karen.
Let's
minus 20 points.
See if we can hear what they're chanting.
What happened to the fucking Fed Lives Matter retards? Weren't they? Or the Proud Boys. That's what they are. The Proud Boys. Basically undercover feds. I guess with Kash Patel taking over the FBI, that they're now just completely gone out of existence.
Hard to make out.
They kept making appearances, and every time they made an appearance, it was a fucking Fed army where it was very clear that they were there to try to stir up counter-protesters, where it looked like they were feds because they were giving free passes into the city, and then every time they tried to leave, police would block them from following them. It's fucking crazy.
Saw the demonstrations
most organized protests you ever seen of them all wearing the same thing, and they all look like pretty military-aged men that are fit. They all look like federal agents, basically.
And now today we see this inside Trump Tower, specifically.
Oh shit! Looks like that one senator, that old lady with purple hair. But she just sit down? She just come back in and sit down?
Them chanting here, free.
No Muslim ban. No, Muslims aren't banned from the city, surprisingly.
Obviously,
freedom of religion is still part of here. He's not being banned because he's Muslim, unless you're trying to say all Muslims support Hamas with that sign. I don't really know what their intention is there. Definitely get some mix-up going here. Trying to see if there's any other comments. Free them all. Who else is currently arrested for this? And some more better news, though. Apparently, Trump has successfully convinced Putin to take the ceasefire deal from Ukraine. So it sounds like the war in Russia might finally be over. I think Ukraine's already agreed to the deal, and now it sounds like Russia is also agreeing to the deal too. So it sounds like Trump actually fixed the war with Russia, which is, I hope so. I hope so. I'm anti-war. I'll be quite honest. That's why I considered myself a Democrat when I was growing up, because I was anti-war, anti-pharmaceutical, anti-government for the most part. And now all the Democrats are take the shot, police and infinite money and people to die in Ukraine, and the government has nothing wrong with it, and there's no corruption whatsoever. So it's pretty comical to me that they completely flipped, which I don't understand why. I never really did. I thought Obama was a pretty charismatic president, and that's why he's also the drone strike king, because I also know he killed a bunch of people with those. So it was always one of those things, like my politics have been kind of iffy. I consider myself more libertarian, and I know a lot of people might have trouble with that based on my videos, because I do post a lot of content right now that seems like it's pro like Trump or some shit like that. But it's not because I'm pro Trump. It's because right now it's the only thing that's making sense. Is there's a lot of people screaming incoherently that Trump's doing bad shit, and then when I see what Trump's actually doing with my own eyes, I don't see it as bad, at least not quite yet. I still thought that debacle the other week was pretty wild, of Vance and Trump arguing with Zelensky inside the White House. But I also kind of figured that happens a lot with politics behind closed doors. Just seems like the nature of the game, where people are always heated about their country and their passions. They want the best thing humanly possible for the most part. And America's always been open arms, free checks, and money for all who ask for it. So it seems like it's probably a different game for Zelensky getting not what he wants immediately and then trying to use it to grandstand. But then Trump also got really fucking aggro too, and so did Vance. Like, I mean, it's one of those things of where it seemed like it was supposed to be a publicity stunt that absolutely backfired on them. So yeah, and just to go ahead and say this, I don't support Russia in any way, shape, or form. I'm just going to throw that out there now. There's going to be a bunch of Russian bots. I notice when I make some of these videos, I get Russian bot comments in there. So if you see any of those, I'll purge them. Don't worry about it. But I don't support Russia. I don't really care. I mean, it's one of those things. If I support America, I'm American first. I don't want to have infinite ties to every part of the world, where every time they get pulled into a conflict, I now have to wonder if my entire country is going to go into crippling debt and sending more young people to die for some shitty part of the world that I wish we had no ideal in. That's why I didn't like the whole Palestinian versus Israel bullshit, because my money's funding the terrorists and my money's funding Israel, and they're both killing each other with my money. That's how I viewed it. I think that's a pretty realistic approach to take here. It's bad things happening all around the world, and there's a lot of it coming from American money, or at least a lot of American money that was funding it. So seeing that a war in Ukraine is now stopping and seeing that Trump's also got a ceasefire going with Palestinians and Israel right now, I think the world's coming to a more peaceful place. We'll see if that maintains. I don't know. Apparently right now there's a trade war. I genuinely don't know. Every day I look at the news, it's like, 25% tariff on, 25% tariff off, 25% tariff on electricity from Canada. Now that's stopped. Like it's so fucking crazy to turn the news on today. What happened today? We have 30% tariffs. Wait, they're already gone. Fuck. And now Trump's announcing like basically a 200% tariff on alcohol coming from Europe, which I don't know if that's actually going to kick into effect, but like the world's fucking crazy. There's so much shit happening, and I genuinely don't know what to cover. So if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, feel free to like it, comment, or subscribe to my channel. I'm A-okay with Americans peacefully protesting 100% of the time. As long as you're not hurting anybody, go for it. As long as you're not taking over public property and building rust bases everywhere because you decide that this is what you're going to stake now for Palestine. Stupid. I do wish to see what they do deport him, what the charges or what their full explanation is, just so I can get a better understanding for myself. Because what it looks like I said earlier with what I showed earlier with the law firm is what I'm seeing across the board on Twitter, at least. Could be that it's no grounds whatsoever. It's a very niche caveat or rule that no longer exists or a law that no longer exists with green cards. But the fact that I Googled it and found a law firm that has nothing to do with this and it isn't a news article and it's been up for a few years tells me that that's probably a understood rule that when you're getting your green card, they tell you about, is my best guess. If they don't tell you you can't support terrorism, I also feel like that should kind of be a little self-explanatory that if you're here on special privilege, because it's not a right to be here, it's a privilege, you probably shouldn't do terroristic acts or support terrorist organizations on American soil. I'm sorry. I feel like that's a pretty cut and dry, common sense answer, boys. Seems pretty common sense. I know common sense is a hard trait to find nowadays, but maybe it's making a comeback. We're getting there eventually. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. I've rambled enough for today. I hope you have a wonderful time, and I will catch you probably in the next video. Until then, later.